Hey, what's up you beautiful people? Today I'm going to give you a review of the Nokia Lumia 1020. So first of all, I'm just going to quickly say for previous 1020 owners or people which are wondering to buy the 1020, it's actually the Nokia 909. Well, 909 was its original name, and Nokia decided to put it to the 1020. So that's the first thing I just want to mention before getting to this review, is that it is also known as the Nokia 909. So in case you're wondering about that, the more you know, it's always useful. So first of all, I'm going to start off with the design of the phone. So the design of the phone is quite standard of the Lumia range. It's a bit square, and it's quite a reasonably sized phone. It's like the Galaxy S3 in terms of size-wise, in terms of how big it is. One has to bear that in mind, as in case you have smaller hands, or if you're a lady for example, you have smaller hands, you're going to probably be using this as a two-handed phone. It's not going to be small enough nor light enough as a one-handed phone. In terms of its design, I quite like it, but that said, its square edges are kind of annoying because they seem to dig into my palm, because I tend to grip my hand quite hard and quite firmly, and that's simply because of fear of dropping it or someone hitting it, and therefore I like to hold it quite tight. In terms of design as well, it's got its charging port down here, it's got its speaker over here, it's got the dedicated camera button, a power on and off switch over here, and lock screen obviously, the volume rocker, the SIM card remover which is provided with a SIM adapter as well, and the 3.5mm jack which is located at the top. So design wise it's decent, however, as mentioned in the overview video, I would have preferred one of these buttons at the top to be located on the left hand side, because it feels like this side is kind of rendered useless altogether. It would have been nice if there was a button or two over here. Now, in terms of its actual specs, the specs are similar to the, well, not similar, they're almost identical to the Lumia 920. It's got a Snapdragon dual-core 1.5 GHz processor inside. However, unlike the Nokia 920, which has only 1 GB RAM, this has 2 GB RAM. Its performance is really good because of Windows Phone 8, or shall I say even Windows Phone 7 would have done good. Windows Phone 8 has nice fluid experience, but that said, there are certain times that I felt that it was a little bit sluggish. I can't quite pin it down in terms of knowing if it's software related or hardware related, but that said, it would be nice if we had a nice quad core inside. Moving on from that hardware, there's other pieces of hardware that I would like to mention, apart from the CPU and RAM, and that is actually its screen. Its screen is just above a 720p display, and as much as that is really nice for a decent phone, for a high spec phone in terms of its top of the range phone, which has especially just come out, it would be nice to see a 1080p display, because that would be nice for viewing photos in better quality. It allows you to have nicer detail and better resolution on your screen. When I put this photo on my PC, it seems much clearer and much sharper. So it would be nice to see a 1080p display. But I understand this is a Windows phone compatibility issue, and in this day and age, I don't think it's a real good excuse for Windows Phone not supporting 1080p. So I can't really critique the Lumia 1020 in that respect. But seeing as Microsoft has bought out Nokia, give or take, they're the same company now. So I would have liked to see a 1080p display, or at least 1080p a resolution screen in there, so that if there's an update which comes out, then the Nokia 1020 can be updated to that resolution. Then I'm going to talk about its external storage. There is none. Now you might be wondering, why am I mentioning external storage? Because coming from an Android phone, I'm used to having external storage. Now why would I need external storage? That's another question, because a lot of people don't actually need external storage. The internal storage is more than enough, and 32 GB that the Lumia 1020 has, it seems more than enough for your day-to-day usage. However, when you start taking 41 megapixel pictures, you'll quickly realize that that space runs out really quickly. The images it takes are two images. You've got 5 megapixel picture and a 38 megapixel picture, and one file size is 2 megabyte and the other one is 10 megabyte. So when you quickly take a lot of when you take a lot of pictures, you'll quickly realize that you're going to be running out of space pretty quickly. So the 32 gigabyte is sufficient enough, but not that sufficient to render it really useful as a long-term phone. You're going to have to be transferring photos and videos to your PC quite often. Another thing I should mention is its battery life. Now, its battery life in respect to its camera is not very good. It's only got 2000 milliamp battery, which is similar to the Galaxy S3, for example. But that said, with its Xenon flash and its high-spec camera, it takes up a lot of battery. And when you're taking a lot of pictures during the day, you're going to realize that battery is going to go down really quick. And I mentioned this in the overview, and I'm going to mention this again in the review, because it's something which is really important to bear in mind. Battery life is a big thing on phones, and unfortunately Lumia 1020 doesn't have a good battery life when it comes to taking pictures. That said, if I take away its picture functionality, which you might say, but why are you going to buy a 1020? Well, I don't know, but some people which might not take loads of pictures will find its day-to-day usage is sufficient for one-day usage. That's medium usage, internet browsing, replying to text messages, making calls, taking the odd picture here and there. But if you take a lot of pictures, you're not going to have much battery life. We're looking at 8 hours to 5 hours battery life by taking pictures, quite a few pictures and videos and whatnot. So it is a shame about its battery life. I would have liked to see a bigger battery in there, or a removable battery, simply because it allows greater flexibility and greater functionalities. The whole point you're going to buy a Lumia 1020 over a 920 is because of its really good camera. And the fact that you can't use that camera a lot means that, well, why would you buy this phone in the first place? So you should bear that in mind when buying this phone, that yeah, sure, the quality is really nice of the pictures, but if you're going to take a lot of pictures, then do bear in mind you're going to need an external power bank or external battery or some sort in order to cope with that. Another thing I should mention about its camera actually is its intriguing design. Now, the design over here, apart from it being top weighted and heavy in terms of holding it, is actually, in terms of how it places on the phone, you can actually see that it sticks out a little bit, meaning that when you place the phone down on the ground and when you're typing on it, it's going to start like bouncing around like that, which is a little bit annoying because I know some people like to have their phones on the ground. But another thing that hasn't actually been mentioned in many reviews that I read or watched was actually its lens cover. The lens cover opens up, so I'm going to open up the camera app now, and you'll see the lens cover open up there. You saw it open there, and if I try and close it, which I'll just lock the phone, you'll see the lens cover will close. Now the lens cover thing is a pretty cool function for normal cameras, but on a phone, I'm not quite sure about that. The reason why I'm saying that is because I know people are going to drop their phones. And if they drop their phones, if that lens cover stops working, then there's no way of accessing that lens cover unless you break the glass somehow. And therefore, if that lens cover stops working after a certain amount of time or whatnot, that means you won't be able to take any pictures whatsoever. Whereas with the other phones like the Galaxy S3, there is no lens cover. That means even if you have I don't know, some sort of problem or whatnot, you can still take pictures. Whereas with this, if I drop it and the lens cover stops working, then I'm not going to be able to take any pictures. And knowing how companies are with their warranties, it's not really good, because that's a wear and tear. That's purely your fault. That was not a manufacturer's fault. So you can't blame the manufacturer for that wise, but that problem. But you can definitely critique them in terms of the design of implementing that lens cover. So I'm not too fond about that. When we talk about hardware, not too fond about that that lens cover. Finally, another thing I should mention about hardware is its sound. The sound quality, I'm not only talking about its speaker, which a lot of people allude to, but it's also its internal jack. I listened to a lot of music and I found that the internal jack was really good. It found nice neutral response, similar to something like an iPhone, for example. It didn't have like the warm tinge or warm feel that a Galaxy S1 or 3 had, but that said, for audiophiles out there, you'll really like the sound that comes out of it. Nice mids and highs, really flat. The lows are a little bit rolled off, but it's not that much of a big deal, especially seeing as you can use EQ if you need it. I didn't use any EQ whatsoever. I quite like listening to raw sound as it comes from the source, and I found that the sound quality was really good in terms of its earphone jack. In terms of its music, in terms of playing it out loud, it's absolutely sensational. The volume that it does is really loud. So you won't be really able to tell that much how loud this is in comparison, but if I have a Galaxy S3 over here and play the same song, and this is the same bit rate and whatnot, let me just quickly search the song. I think it's DJ Shadow. I should be able to find it pretty quickly. This is max volume. Hopefully you're able to tell the difference. The Lumia 1020 is by far louder and very much, well, you won't be able to hear this, but it's so much more crisper when it comes to loud volumes. Doesn't distort at all. I'm not saying the Galaxy S3 distorts, but it doesn't distort at surprisingly high volumes. It beats every other Lumia that I've ever heard or seen by a clear mile. So previous Lumia owners will be really impressed, and other owners from other phones, for example like iPhones and Android phones like the Samsung Galaxy S3, will be really impressed with its speaker performance. Speaker performance was outstanding, really, really good, really clear and really loud. So top marks to Nokia for that speaker design. Now I'm going to move on to software and my actual usage of the phone. I use this as a day-to-day phone with all my SIM and everything inside. My SIM isn't right in there right now, it's actually my S3, but I used it every day for a few weeks just to test out for my own curiosity to see how it was performing, but also because I wanted to give you a real honest review. Its day-to-day usage was really useful, really good, and really fluid. I didn't really notice that much lag, even though I did mention that lag before with the CPU, that I'm not really sure of what it's based on. But there is a little bit of lag, but that said, overall, really, really fluid experience. People coming from an iPhone will really appreciate how fluid this is, and that speaks volumes on its own, because iPhones are known to be really smooth, but the Lumia really puts it kind of to shame because it's really, really nice. Specs are not, crazy in terms of hardware specs, but when it comes to the software, it's so nice and fluid. With that said, with the software, I should mention apps. A lot of people might say there's a lot of apps missing, and it is true, there's a lot of apps missing on Windows Phone. But that said, don't forget, Android was almost in the same situation when iOS was already out, simply because it was a new operating system. Nowadays, Android is quite, well, not should I say old, but it's out there for quite a while now, and that means that Windows Phone has its time to catch up. It has to catch up somehow, and it's going to take time, so just give it time and it will have apps out there as well. That said, there are very popular apps that I would have expected, for example like Vine and Instagram, to be on the store, but they weren't, unfortunately. So do bear that in mind if you're going to switch to Windows Phone, or if you already have a Windows Phone, then you should probably be used to this already. But it's a little bit of a shame that there's quite a few apps missing. That said, there's some sort of favorites out there like Angry Birds or Twitter or Facebook and Spotify, which are out there, and they all work really nicely and really well integrated with the Windows Phone. It seems like the apps that are created for Windows Phone are really well integrated and really well looked into. So it's a give or take. Let's put it this way. Finally, I'm going to end this review to do with the price of this phone. Now, the price of this phone is £550 to £600, and for me, that is very expensive. I bought my Samsung Galaxy S3 1.5 years ago for £500. So for a phone just coming out today for £600 is quite expensive, especially considering the Galaxy S4, for example, is about £520 or £500. So it's a really expensive price tag it's coming in at, and I can't really recommend it for that price. Seeing as its specs are like the Lumia 920, apart from its camera functions, I don't see why someone would pay such an extra premium. So if you're going to pay extra for the camera, you might as well go out there and buy an extra camera, as in a separate camera. The reason I'm saying this is because its camera quality is really, really good, and I'll link down in the description of my website, and on there you'll be able to see pictures and whatnot of full resolution, non-compressed pictures of the Lumia 1020. But with that said, I don't feel that the price is worthy of its performance, as in its camera, its phone. Sorry, you're paying that premium for its camera only, really, and I wouldn't personally pay that premium for the camera only, because its camera is really nice. But that said, when I pair this up with the phone, lack of 1080p display, little bit of lag, especially when taking pictures, loads of pictures and whatnot, reasonably heavy in terms of phone, design not exactly great, small battery in comparison to what the phone needs, and no external SD card storage makes it very hard a phone to recommend. It's really a niche phone in my opinion. It's for either people which are already on Windows Phone and don't want to leave Windows Phone and really like a better camera, or people which are really camera geeks and really want to take loads of high-res pictures but on the go without the DSLRs or SLRs or whatnot, and therefore want a camera phone, and in that respect we'll have this. So the Lumia 1020 does outperform a lot of cameras, let alone camera phones like the Samsung Zoom and whatnot, but it doesn't outperform DSLRs or SLRs. I don't think it even comes close to it. They're just in a different league, and they should never really be compared because the sensors are different and the sensor size are different of that. You have a big sensor on a DSLR or SLR, but on these you're going to have really small sensors, so you can't expect a world of quality coming from a phone. Don't get me wrong, excellent pictures, brilliant quality, really great in low light and whatnot, but when I take the price into consideration with its performance, or in comparison to the market, in terms of when I'm comparing it to the S3, the S4, the iPhone and whatnot, I find, and even in the Lumia, the 920, I find it very hard to recommend this phone at £600. For this price though, and if I had to give it a rating, I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10 rating, simply because it is a good phone at the end of the day, but its price does let it down. That said, I can see it appealing to certain people which are interested in cameras and whatnot, but it's something that I can't really recommend for your average user, so therefore it has to get a 7 out of 10 rating. My S3, I give it an 8 out of 10 rating, and that's actually mainly because of not really spec, shall I say, but just because it's 1.5 years old, and also because it can do a little bit better in terms of software integration with TouchWiz and whatnot. But this phone, I can't give it more than 7 out of 10 because of its price. If the price of this phone was, say, £350, which is still more expensive than the S3, but cheaper than the S4, it'd get a solid 10 out of 10 review, simply because for that price you can't really find a better phone / camera on the market for that type of price range. And then by camera I mean a portable camera, not an SLR camera. Small compact cameras, the camera which is recording right now, in some respects this phone outperformed this camera, which only has 16 megapixel camera, but optical zoom and whatnot will never be beaten by a camera, by a phone versus a camera, unless it has optical zoom itself. But overall, you know, when I'm reviewing this, I'm reviewing it as a phone, not as a camera, and as a phone I can't give it more than 7 out of 10. So hopefully you'll appreciate where I'm coming from with this, and hopefully don't say, oh well, you can't say that because of this and that. Well, wait until you try the phone, or if you actually buy the phone and then put it into perspective with other phones. So I'm pretty sure a lot of Windows fanboys will be saying, no, it should be a full 10 out of 10 is the best Windows phone ever made. It is probably the best Windows phone ever made, but right now I don't think it compares really well with the market. The market has got better phones out there, or for a more reasonable price without a dedicated camera, i.e. Nokia Lumia 920. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this review. Hopefully I covered everything quite briefly and quite nice for you guys, and this covers a lot of things that you would be interested in if you're going to buy this phone. I definitely do suggest it. It's a nice phone, but again, that price is quite steep. So if you've got the money, then go for it. If you don't, then do look at other phones, be it in the own Lumia range, or be it in the Windows Phone 8 range, or be it in the Android or iOS range. Alright guys, take care. Totally dubbed out. Bye bye.